Truth. Wisdom. Empowerment. Urban Family Talk.
Anyway, welcome back to the show. I'm Meeke.
And I'm Will, and that was Tone Spain. Punch in.
All right, then. Tonight on Blog Talk Radio. Blog Talk Radio.
Right.
Hey, listen, let me say this. So yesterday we discussed Lecrae and his collaborations, and I want to say this, and it's taken me a while to come out and say it because I really like to kind of consider and I like to be careful. But I have come to the conclusion that to endorse the wicked is sinful. That's the conclusion that I've come to. To endorse the wicked is sinful. And I believe that collaborations are endorsements.
Yeah. Well, they are.
I believe that endorsements are endorsements.
Right.
You know, and so I believe that is sin. You know, I just want to say that when we talked about Lecrae yesterday, it was not coming from a place of anger or malice. It was not coming from a place of like, I'm trying to, get him or anything like that. It was really coming from a place of concern and feeling like people are unwilling to talk about this, unwilling to discuss this issue. And so you took the audio and you kind of shared the audio on social media to get people's take on it. And people have, which is really surprising to me, but it has been revealed that a lot of people feel the same way. A lot of people feel the same way, but feel like, as I expressed, they can't really say it because they don't want to be ostracized.
Yeah.
That's really sad. That's really sad. We got some private messages, you know what I'm saying, where people, it's like kind of off the record. And I thought, wow, and don't get me wrong here. I appreciate the encouragement and we will never out you. We will never out you. But that really surprised me that a lot of people kind of off the record were like, man, you know, this needed to be said. This has been our concern too, but we can't really say anything. And I want to say this too. If you were listening to the show yesterday, I want to make this point of clarification. When Lecrae called in, who happens to be a Christian rapper, Christian artist, very good, by the way, very good, okay? He was not necessarily challenging me on my position of Lecrae's shift in ministry focus. That's not what he was doing. He was asking the question, are we too quick to publicly, I guess, chastise people? Do we need to pray more than we kind of like seek to quickly expose them? And I respect that. I had no problems with Lecrae. Like I didn't feel like he was disrespectful, and I didn't feel like, and I didn't feel like, I hope I didn't disrespect him yesterday. Like it was not my intent. And I'll say this too. At a certain point, I kind of forgot that I was talking to Lecrae. Right. Really, I began to talk to our audience because I feel like there's so much that they don't know. I feel like people don't know our background, and I don't feel like we need to talk about that to sort of try to increase our stock. You know what I'm saying? That yes, we are a husband and wife couple, but we didn't wake up one morning in our kitchen and say, hey, let's do a radio show. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so to have been associated with Lecrae and to be at some of the tables where, historically you have been the one to say, hey, what about bringing Lecrae in? What about, you feel sort of a vested interest, And so my challenge to Lecrae is more in line with the challenge that Paul laid out, to Peter. The line has been drawn. Yes. Now you choose your side, choose your side. Yes. And as far as on the Lord's side, right. You know what I'm saying? And then everything else. Right. It's you're on the Lord's side or everything else. Right. That's kind of how that's divided out. But I was thinking about it. And even as we were, up this morning and we were just praying, I want people to understand that this is not something that we approach lightly. We didn't say anything for a very long time, And we've been watching and reading. And let me say this, hoping and a praying and a wishing. And when it becomes painfully clear that you have a Christian artist who's been given influence by the church that is so precious. And here is something else. So, there is no part of me that desires to use Lecrae's name for any significance or anything like that. No. You understand what I'm saying? And I hate to say it, but I was doing radio before I was doing urban radio. Okay. And so when we extended an invitation for Lecrae to come on our show, one of the questions he asked was, who have we interviewed?
Right.
Which I thought was incredibly insulting. Chris Tomlin didn't ask me that.
Yeah.
Chris Tomlin didn't ask me that. Natalie Grant didn't ask me that. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Super Chick in studio with me didn't ask me that. Building 429. They didn't ask me that. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And that was very offensive to me. Like, I'm thinking, whoa, you're that big now? You want to know, like, if it's worth your time, who have I talked to? Who have I interviewed with? So that I'm starting to go, okay, wait a minute. This is an attitude. This is a heart here that's being revealed. And I'm like, is anybody calling you into account? So when we had 15 minutes to sit down, I was like, I really want to go more in depth. He agreed to come on the show. He agreed to come back. Then his team got back with us and said two things. One, he doesn't have time. Two, it's not a part of his ministry focus right now. Now, listen to me. I've done this long enough to know that what you're saying is y'all don't matter enough for me to come sit down with you. If it were MTV or BET, I'm there. But for what you're doing, and my thing is, okay, but we're playing your music. We're introducing you. So you're saying you're not accountable to us. You don't have to, you don't have to do this. And so I'm like, okay, well, I have been very careful and very calculated, but I'm not going to be silent anymore, because what I wanted to do was make sure to speak with him, which I believe is biblical.
Right, it is.
But when you reject that, I'm saying, no, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say something. You know, and I was thinking about it even as we were praying this morning, Will, you know, and we talked about this. So for the sake of our audience, I was thinking about Galatians chapter 2. You know, and Paul said, now when Peter had come to Antioch, I withstood him to his face because he was to be blamed. For before certain men came from James, he would eat with the Gentiles. But when they came, he withdrew and separated himself, fearing those who were of the circumcision. And I was like, this is the approach that I'm taking. I'm not saying that Lecrae has had some sort of moral failure where he's cheated on his wife or he's been out clubbing and drinking. But is that our only standard? That's all we require of those we consider to be leaders in the faith?
Come on.
If that were the case, then Paul would have let Peter be two-faced.
Urban Family Talk. Urban Family Talk.